Yes, ma'am.
You're a little bit different from the other two candidates just because of background, maybe not starting in the classroom, or, is that something that could hurt you, or, what would you say to people who might have concerns about that?
Well, the first thing that I would say about that is that I would challenge people to look at the 7 years that I've served as superintendent and look at the results that we've had in my district currently. We're a very high-performing school district. That's not all attributable to me. It's attributable to an incredible staff and an incredible community, but it's my job as a superintendent to lead and support those efforts to make sure that continues. What I feel like a superintendent is most responsible for is balancing the community needs, working with the board, and then supporting what goes on in the schools. And that means support down to the teacher level, making sure teachers have the right resources, the right training, and everything they need to be successful, because that's where learning truly happens, is in the classroom, and we have to make sure that they have what they need at that level. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the culturally responsive teaching. I want to know about the number or the percentage of African Americans in Davis County, and if you would have to make any sort of adjustment with the increased number of African American student population here in Fayette County. What sort of background do you have?
Okay, our number is of just about 6%, so it is considerably lower as a percentage. However, I don't see that as having to make a change, because I don't have different expectations for any students. I have the same expectations for all students, regardless of race or any other type of measurement that we might use. We simply have to have the expectations that all students can learn and achieve, and then provide the right resources and support to make sure that happens. That has to continually be monitored and evaluated, as it has been here by the Equity Council and by the board. And I know that's a high priority here, and I would make sure that continued.
If you get this job, Tom, I believe you've got about 12,000 students, and
correct.
You'll be moving to a district that's got about 37
or 38, yeah.
A pretty big step up the ladder. What do you feel you're ready for that? What do you need to make in the way of adjustments to meet that challenge? And tell us how you do that.
Well, I don't feel it's a question of numbers and size. If you look at this district and you look at the support and structures that are already in place, from the board to the district office and to out in the schools, and then the community support that's there, I think that is where the focus has to be on meeting the needs here in Fayette County. I don't think you can look from one district to another and say, it's a set ratio of what the expectations are, or a set difference in the number of problems or issues that you're going to deal with. When I look at the job of superintendent, the job is basically the same no matter what size district you're in. What matters is that you have the right staff and right support and right systems around you to be able to make sure the right decisions are made and that the district continues its vision to move forward.
Policy challenge coming in if you were to be chosen as superintendent? Anything from class size, money from Frankfurt? What's the biggest issue?
Well, I think all school districts are facing some major issues and changes that have to be pointed out. With the implementation of Common Core standards, with new assessment, with the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act at the federal level, Senate Bill 1 at the state level, new evaluation and accountability models that are going to be put in place. All of those things make it challenging for any school district from a policy standpoint right now. We're kind of, moving and working toward a moving target, shooting at a moving target. The focus has to be on quality instruction and on student achievement. We have to make sure that teachers are prepared and have the resources they need to where the instruction is of high quality every day in every classroom for every student, and then the right resources and support are there for students to succeed at high levels no matter what the policy issues are.
I asked Lou this question yesterday. Apparently it came up quite a lot in the focus groups before the search really got underway. And that's about snow days, which quite get a lot of public interest here in how it's done. And what's your philosophy and how would you handle those?
Well, my philosophy is going to be very similar to what it is here, and the reason I say that is because I know there's highly qualified staff here that work in that area right now and analyze and make input toward that decision. Ultimately, any of the decisions like that are going to fall on the responsibility of the superintendent. I know Stu's taken responsibility for every decision that's been made, and I would do the same. But, we're always going to err to the side of safety if I'm making that decision. We're always going to make sure we communicate adequately, and we're going to make sure that we have good policies and procedures in place. I've actually been part of that decision making for over 14 years now. Was responsible for doing that with Mr. Silberman when I was in Davis County, and so clearly have an understanding of what the expectation there is, and also the issues that can happen for parents and others in the community. But the focus always has to be on safety, number one.
You mentioned communication. There is a strong feeling in this community, I believe, that there needs to be a lot of communication going on between the superintendent, community, parents. How would you keep that going and build on it? What would be your plans in those areas?
Well, the first thing, I think there's a lot of avenues to make that happen already with the way the Equity Council meets, where other committees within the district meet, the parent participation groups and things that are in place through Stu's input groups that he has. And so I would spend, the bulk of my time, if I'm selected for the position, at just learning and listening, and then from that trying to see, okay, is everybody at the table? Are we hearing everything we need to hear? And then where do we go forward? As I mentioned earlier, I like to collaborate. I like to listen to others. I like to find areas of common focus and common goal. I think it's a superintendent's responsibility to make sure that we go out into the community and hear what the community has to say, and that that's shared with the board so that the board can make the best decisions possible. And so I would just simply want to build on what has been here. Anyone else?
I'll throw out one more.
All right.
You mentioned all of the core content, the new test that's coming up. I mean, this school year is going to be coming up is going to be radically different, I think, from what we've been used to. As superintendent, what will you be doing if you get this job to make that transition work, to make that transition smooth, and see that we get through this coming year without seeing achievement fall off? There's some expectation that it might. What will you be doing this year?
Well, the main thing that I would be doing if I were selected for this position this year is building relationships and learning about the community. I believe that the board and current administration has the right structures in place to get through this next year and to move even beyond. I've been very impressed with the cabinet and the principals and all those that I've met. All the information that I read, and I think the structure is there to make sure that we're prepared for the implementation of the new standards and for moving into next year. And I would have to rely on the staff, to make sure that we do that. What I would need to do is be very visible and be very open, and to listen to people, to make sure that we're hearing everyone that needs to be heard, and that ultimately we have the right relationships and support to continue to move this district in the direction it's been going.
There have been some superintendents, frankly, who've been wondering or questioning whether we're really prepared for this on a statewide basis.
Right.
Whether there's enough money. Where do you think we are?
Well, as I was sharing with the cabinet, the principals, and even the teachers groups I met with earlier, the implementation of Senate Bill 1 is basically unfunded. The implementation of the Common Core standards is basically unfunded. They're shifting some funds at the state level, but basically there is no money. So each district has kind of had to build its own plan to be successful. And that's what's exciting about Fayette County is Fayette County has used its resources and planned well to build an implementation model that I believe will be successful. And I'm excited to have the possibility of being a part of that and watching it move forward to benefit kids. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you being here.
Always good to talk to you.